My brothers and sisters in Christ, today's gospel is a passage that we heard in similar fashion just the Sunday before last. Today is Matthew's account. We heard Mark's last Sunday, but it's the episode of the storm at sea in which the disciples are fearful in the boat until Jesus rebukes the storm. And I shared, I wasn't the homilist Sunday before last when the passage came up, but I did write in my bulletin letter that I was reading the passage and recalling my experience many years ago while I was on a retreat up in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And you may recall that Gloucester is the site, or was the town, that lost several fishermen. If you ever saw the film The Perfect Storm, the great storm which came and a lot of lives were lost at sea during this storm, Gloucester was at the center of this. And so it struck me as something, you travel around, you see all kinds of unique features in churches, but something I saw in Gloucester and the church there, Our Lady of Good Voyage, was something I've never seen anywhere else. And that is, on the walls of the church, there were shelves with model ships. And the model ships were likenesses of the ships owned by the parishioners. As so many of them, with it being a fishing village, so many of them work at sea, whether they're fishermen or some other trade, but there are people whose lives or livelihoods are very much entangled with the sea. And it was a beautiful expression of how the putting of these models up there is an entrusting of their lives and livelihoods to the Lord. And that is ultimately what's at heart in today's gospel passage, which is the disciples are looking at the storm. They're looking at everything around that is making them fearful, when in fact Jesus is with them in the boat. If their eyes were on Jesus, there would be nothing to fear. Not to say that no harm can come. So we know Jesus himself would suffer, and has said that as his disciples, we will too. But they would know that ultimately not all can be lost when you're with Jesus. And yet, their eyes are drawn instead to the maelstrom that's happening outside the boat. In a similar way, I admit this may surprise some of you, as you've seen images and videos of things when I've been on vacations and the like, including cruises, but I've never been particularly comfortable out on the water. It's one of those irrational phobias that I have. But I've also grown over time, aside from that irrational fear, I've overcome the tendency towards seasickness, where on the sea, just the motion of it, like a lot of people, can start to make you feel sick. And there's an old trick always when that begins to happen, which you look beyond the ocean itself and you look at the horizon. And if you stare at the horizon, everything steadies out. Your center of balance is restored, as long as you don't look down just into the water, but you stare at the horizon where sky and ocean meet. It helps you to regulate. And where you are confused or disoriented before, it helps regulate and get everything back out. Well, in the same way, Jesus' presence in the boat is that horizon, which is, if the eyes are on Jesus, then the storm doesn't matter anymore. But when we ignore the presence, when our faith is not in the presence of Jesus, and when we are not with him, when our hearts are not with him, then the storms will seem like too much to overcome. But instead, if we can be like those people of Our Lady of Good Voyage in Gloucester, if we can entrust our lives and livelihood to the Lord himself, to his protection, not just from literal storms out on the sea, but from all of the things that threaten us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of these realities, if we simply keep our eyes fixed on Jesus, who is with us, then we will know that we never have anything to fear. May God bless you.